We want to understand what is the root of the challenge the child is facing instead of just fixing things from the top down only, even though we do need to address it. But at the same time, you have to also go from the top to bottom. So reflex integration through play, that's what we work on, and movement-based work and understanding the primitive level of primitive reflexes and then how the body works. That's what we focus on. But now, as we're working on that too, we still also have to address the top to bottom approach. So we're having Fran come in and also help us support and create program that can address that piece of it. She's highly trained in that area, and we're learning so much from her. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to RITP podcast. Today I have a very special guest for you. You probably know her. She has been here before, but I have very exciting sessions that I'm putting together with her, and I wanted to invite her here. First, this is Fran joining me here today, and then we're going to talk about a very important subject that I think is really important for parents, educators, therapists, anyone working with kids at any age, that we want to help them, but at the same time, while we're managing their emotional state, we need to learn how to manage our own state. And by working with her, I've learned so much. I know she came to work with me, but I ended up learning a lot more from her. Now we're working together and putting programs together. It's very exciting. And I just want to introduce her here for you now, and she can introduce herself, and then we can go in depth. Fran, take over. Let us know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Fran Rubio-Katz. Everybody calls me Coach Franny. At the school I work at, they call me Mora Franny. Mora is the Hebrew word for teacher. I am a longtime educator, a parent. I am a social, emotional, behavioral coach. And I am just so passionate about not only helping kids, but helping their grown-ups. So meaning the parents, the educators, the service providers, because our children can only be as good as we are, in the sense that if we're not able to show up to them as our best selves, then that they're going to suffer. So I like to make sure that the adults are also very taken care of.
Awesome. Okay, so for those of you who don't know you, let's just tell them a little bit about like how we met and how we now ending up working together. And recently we talked about, just for those of you who don't know, like RITP, with reflex integration through play, we focus on from the bottom up approach. We want to understand what is the root of the challenge the child is facing instead of just fixing things from the top down only, even though we do need to address it. But at the same time, you have to also go from top to bottom, a part of approach. So that's reflex integration through play. That's what we really work on, and movement-based work and really understanding really in the primitive level of primitive reflexes and then how the body works. And that's what we focus on. But now, as we're working on that too, we still also have to address the top to bottom approach. So now we're having Fran come in our program and also help us support and help us create program that can address that piece of it. And she's highly trained in that area, and we're learning so much from her, and we wanted to make it available for you as well to learn a bit about it. And if you want to learn more with us, you're definitely welcome to join in. So to just give everybody a background, let's tell them like, how did we meet?
Yeah, absolutely. I have been doing a lot of top-down regulation work for a long time. And what I mean by that is coaching, and coaching in a very responsive, holistic way. I have a big background in conscious discipline. I'm no longer with the company, but at one point I was a certified provider. I still personally am a practitioner. It's my first language. I've also studied many other responsive, non-punitive, non-adversarial ways to work with children. Currently, I am also certified in Dr. Ross Green's approach. His model is called Collaborative and Proactive Solutions, or CPS. So that is my very first language. What happened along the way for me is that I noticed, even with one of my own children, that no matter how much I was willing to recognize their brain state, no matter how much I was willing to be patient and work with them and coach myself, so I was available to do that, that some children need more help. And that led me first to explore yoga. So I am a certified yoga teacher. And I also attended a beautiful program called Breathe for Change, where I learned how to be a social emotional facilitator for school communities. And that really brought yoga and all of this social, emotional, behavioral work together. And then I still noticed some children needed more. And then I actually found MNRI. I found that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I had an MNRI practitioner actually seek me out and started attending a parenting class that I was giving. And it was interesting because the class was for parents of younger children, and she was beautiful, but I could tell she didn't have very small children. So I was, what is this person doing here? And at the end, she revealed to me that she was wanting to hear what I had to say because she works with a lot of children and families doing this thing called MNRI, which I didn't know what it was, and that she really needs help with the parents and helping the parents feel regulated and helping the parents get into a place where they can work with their children. And so I then attended some of her lectures and came and visited her facility. And the first time I saw a presentation she did about primitive reflexes, I left hysterically crying, sat in my car for hours, and thought to myself, if I knew about reflexes, I probably could have shaved like 4 years of therapies off of the plate for one of my children. And for
Yep.
any of you out there who have a child that is in different therapies for whatever's going on with them, it is all consuming. It takes your energy, it takes your time, it takes your finances. Taking a child who's tired and hungry at the end of the day to go then do something that doesn't feel fun to them, that is really hard. So, what I realized at that point is I need to understand reflexes. And I do practice MNRI. I am a level 2 practitioner and I'm continuing on that journey, and I love it. And I really use it more for my passive work for stuff I'm doing on the table. But just like I explained, most kids are coming at the end of the day. They are not wanting to lay on the table. It becomes this whole new fight that upsets everybody's nervous system. And so I needed something that is effective, that targeted reflexes and was fun. And I don't know how or why, but I thought that. And then I got on the internet and literally Kokeb stuff popped on my screen. And I want to learn from her. And then I see not only can I get certified in her work, but that I could also have my own mentorship with her. And I signed up and it's changed my life.
Awesome. Yeah. I loved working together and then learning from you definitely. And then from my end, Fran came and we worked together and learned how to implement RITP and a play-based and the assessment that we have. And we did the mentorship, which is different than the certification piece of it for a while. And as I've been working with you, and then I see how you interact with your clients is way different than my other therapists, even my own, and the teachers that I support. And we support therapists worldwide, actually. And the hole that I saw with our therapist was we can have the best treatment plan, We can do either you're doing RITP, MNRI, whatever you do, you can have the best of intention and the best understanding of your client, and you can have the best treatment plan. But there are times that the treatment plan will just not work, will not work, even though the body needs it. You already understand the baseline. That's why we teach to understand the baseline, know the treatment plan, know exactly what you're going to do, but the client will not do it. And from what I've learned working with different therapists, and the beauty of like in our certification program, I get to see the videos that the parents allow to share with us with the therapist. And some of the breakdown I start to notice the more is like how they implement, how they're bringing themselves in the session. And some of the time we start to realize that, yeah, your treatment plan is great from the assessment to everything you're doing. Your idea is great. This, if in the ideal world, will work. However, this child needs something else, which is the emotional piece of it. And knowing that even the video, we analyze the videos in our program. With some of the therapists, I've started to notice, like, oh, the way you're talking to him, do you see that you shut him down? Like that kid, the way the words are you using, it doesn't work with this kid, but it works with another kid, which is totally fine. But you do the same thing, just the way the wording changed, the behavior, the demeanor. Sometimes we start to notice more of, even when I go help with kids in the classrooms that the schools that we support, I can see clearly what can help them. But then I first have to earn their trust. And I needed to know how to talk to the child specifically. Even before we can help the teachers implement activities, we have to train them first. Oh, this child, he needs something else from you. He needs like you to breathe a bit, forget the goals for now. Like he's having a lot of trauma in his own mind or body, everything else he's dealing with. Like your good intention is not going to work right now. So that took a lot of training in a different way. Like we cannot even get to the treatment planning with RITP unless we address this. So you can see that it can works both ways. Like I can see that you noticed, okay, I am coming in, I understand, but then I'm missing the root cause. And then you can come the opposite direction. I understand the bottom up approach, but as a therapist, I need to know how to get in and win this kid. And some of the therapists, even teachers that I talk to, sometimes we start to even having conversation about how are you feeling right now? What is this session triggering in you? And they can see, oh, I'm bringing my own anxiety. Some of them can say, I'm bringing my own ADHD in this session. So we have to work on, okay, how do you come in a session? And understanding that. And that is why I'm really excited partnering with Fran and bringing this to the RITP community. Today, I wanted to bring in a term that I heard from Fran herself, which she calls, is it the water or the fish? Fran, how about you just explain what does it mean and where does this term came from? Is it the water or the fish?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do provide a lot of professional development for educators, and I talk a lot about multi-tiered systems of support and intervention. And one of the trainings I've created is called, Is it the fish or is it the water? And to really boil it down, it's saying that let's take the fish tank metaphor and let's pretend that we have a saltwater tank. You, as the adult, you are the water. So I like us to ask ourselves, am I running a little too hot? Am I running a little too cold? Am I a little too salty or a little too sweet? So just like in a fish tank, we have to find the balance of the water to really understand how the fish are doing. So fish can end up in our tank and they can have a lot of their own little things. And if the water is not balanced, we might think that this fish needs a whole lot of help. But the truth of the matter is that if this little fish was in more balanced water, their needs might not be as great. So that is the whole concept of, is it the fish or is it the water? And I understand that we have many different fish that grace our fish tanks. And some people are like, you've just never met this fish before. And I get that feeling. I have felt that feeling. And at the end of the day, whether it's our own child at home, a child that's in our classroom, or if we're working as a service provider and we are here to work a treatment plan with a child, we still need to make sure we show up as balanced as possible. And again, from there, we get to start to see what's really going on with the fish.
That's great for all therapists and academic people. Can you explain what's happening in our nervous system when we implode or explode?
Yeah, absolutely. Stress is cumulative. Stress is, take a soda bottle, imagine somebody shaking it, and you see the bubbles accumulating, right? And there's three things that have to happen for those bubbles to go down, because in this soda bottle, the bubbles don't just go down. They keep adding and adding and adding. And what ends up happening is we usually end up imploding or exploding. So, exploding is when we just have had that last straw, that final straw that broke the camel's back. And it's usually not even like a big deal thing. Somebody might just say, my trigger is when somebody in my house asks me what's for dinner. If I've not been doing my self care, if my stress is accumulating and they're like, what are we having for dinner tonight? I might be like, how do I know? I just might have this crazy extreme reaction, a real explosion over being asked, what are we having for dinner tonight? Is very triggering for me. You can ask my family. For some people, they implode. And for the imploders, those are the people that always have that little funny pain in the back, the little funny thing going on in the wrist. Some people have a lot of anxiety. Some people have like butterflies in their tummy. There's all different ways that implosion shows up, and it's obviously showing up as dis-ease, which eventually becomes disease. But when we start to understand that we're not having a healthy stress response and we're not mitigating our stress, we can start doing something differently. And what I did talk about is that we can, like I said, implode, explode, or we can breathe. Breath work is one of the most important things that we can do, and it must be practiced on a regular basis to achieve a reset, to come back to center, for you to continue to be resilient. And I'm not saying that you'll never have an explosion or an implosion ever again in your life. No, of course not. However, you'll probably have a lot less, and the ups and downs won't be as big. It'll be more steady, more even keel. And I think that we would all appreciate to have more of that steadiness in our life. And I just want to go back for a moment and talk about that. I just said that we have to practice it regularly, because when I start to talk to people about breath work, all of a sudden I might walk into a classroom and I'll be hearing a teacher, let's take a breath. That doesn't feel very calm.
Yeah.
And usually, if that is what you do in the heat of the moment when you're trying to co regulate with a kid, they're going to feed off of you,
Mm.
and they're going to match you in that emotional or survival state. And our hope is that we can coach ourselves through our own breath, get ourselves back up to this executive state in this part of our brain, the only conscious part of our mind, so that we can then coach the child and help them however we need to show up for them.
Awesome. So for our listeners, so we have mainly parents, we have therapists, and then we have educators. So you mentioned a little bit about the therapist. They have 30-minute session or 50 minutes. When I come in the classroom, for instance, the teacher has like at least 10 kids in the classroom and more. So we talk about co-regulating. There's a lot they're managing. And with a therapist, it can be one-on-one or maybe three or four if they do a group. So the expectation is different. And then there's different with a parent because the parent has their own stressors, just being responsible for this child, right? And then they live with that child 24/7. So that's different kind of stressor. So what would you advise a therapist? What would you advise a parent? And what would you advise a teacher?
Yeah. For all three, I'm going to say practicing daily breath work is going to help establish a more resilient baseline for our nervous system so that we have less implosions and explosions. So that's going to be number one across the board. When we're working with children, I'll start with service providers, the therapists, because I also wear that hat as a certified RITP provider and also MNRI. First and foremost, know that your treatment plan is the goal that you would like to get to. It's the structure, it's your framework, I should say, to get you to your goals. However, it's not the most important thing. And what I see is that a therapist might walk into a session thinking to myself, I only have 30 minutes or I only have 25 minutes. And how am I going to get X, Y, and Z done? And now this kid is stalling and he just told me he has to go to the bathroom and he just came back from the bathroom. So we start to get really nervous and then that shows up in our own energy. So connection before correction is always really important. Really having that rapport, building rapport with that child is going to be so important. Once you build rapport with a child, obviously you can show them what the structure of the session is. I know lots of predictability helps with co-regulation. So if you know what to expect and the child knows what to expect, and again, sometimes the child still might not be open to it, but if we can remain consistent with that, it can really help with that ability to co-regulate with the child. Just remember that when you pick that little person up, or it could even be a bigger person, we're here to connect. We're here to have fun because any work that we do with the nervous system, we are truly connecting those nervous systems. We are co-regulating. If that person is showing you right now, my insides are jagged up and down, right? Instead of meeting them at jagged up and down, we want to just start to approach them in a way that they start to pick up our energy, and we don't want to force it, right? We want to start with, sometimes we have to move a little further away from the child. Maybe they feel our proximity is too much for them. We have to think about the way that we're talking to them. Another thing that I found throughout my time with working with people is sometimes really activating those mirror neurons. So if the child like looks at you like this, I might not give them a face back like this, but I might also slightly turn my head like this. Really little tiny things. Nothing obvious to the like they feel like they're being made fun of. And my intention is not to be like, look, you look like this. That's not my intention. My intention is to provide motor empathy. Motor empathy builds awareness. And once that awareness starts to happen, we start to get out of that very primitive part of our brain. And we can come into a more of an emotional part where all of a sudden the kid might say, something very emotive. I hate coming to you, but guess what? That's great because at least now we're not down here where we're locked in this very primitive place. And when you hear that, you can just give them back, you seem frustrated, and then think about what they were hoping for. You were hoping to still be in your classroom. And just saying those little words doesn't all of a sudden mean you're going to let the kid go back to the classroom. And it's not even usually what they think is going to happen next. They're usually like, yeah, it's, you understand me. You get it. When somebody feels understood, that is the gateway to connection. That's something I would say for therapists. For educators, I always say there's lots of ways to prime your day and your classroom for co-regulation. That starts from the moment kids get to school by just greeting them. I always offer the children two ways to greet, and I've taught everything from preschool to middle school. And I've even taught teenage boys who are incarcerated. So I always start with a greeting. I don't care how old you are. And I offer one touch greeting, one non-touch greeting. And if somebody comes in and I go to greet them and they're not willing to be greeted, I can already say to myself, okay, I have to adjust my expectations right now. I see that this is a place that they're not in this space right here. They're not ready to be conscious and connect with me. If I go to greet a child and I offer them a choice and they're not able to make a choice, so like you pick or whatever, I'm also now noticing something even different, maybe a little anxiety. There's all different things that there's so much information that a greeting gives me. But the point that I want to make is that by having greetings, when your children come into your classroom, you are gathering so much information about where their nervous system is that day.
Mm.
And when it comes to parents, I think that what happens is for some parents, I know that they might have a child who wakes up in a bad mood. This is something I hear about these things. Or you go to pick up your child, it's the end of the day, and you're so excited to see them, and they get in the car and they don't talk. There's all these different things. And right away, we make a lot of assumptions about what this all means, or then how it's going to end up like ruining the day, or now I could tell the kind of night it's going to be. And I just encourage you to unhook from that, right? Because those are, like I say, children come with a Captain Hook arm. They pull you into this big, dark, deep hole if you let them. Instead of you going, "Ooh, there comes that Captain Hook arm. Looks like they want to go in the hole." But the only thing that happens in that hole is a power struggle. There's a tiny rope in the bottom of the hole, and the only way somebody is going to win and get out of that hole is either you're going to give in to that kid and let them do what you didn't want to let them do from the get-go, or you're going to end up flipping your lid, probably threatening, making all kinds of taking away birthday parties and iPads till the kid's 68. And that's not going to happen. So nothing good happens in the hole.
Yeah.
So I just like to say, like, when you start to notice, that's a moment to just take your own breath. Don't push it on the kid. And you might just say, oh, it looks like you're not ready to talk yet. Oh, I'll try saying hello to you again in a little while. Or they come in the morning just because they're grumpy. Oh, looks like you might need a little extra help this morning getting ready. Do you want to brush your teeth, or do you want to brush your teeth in my bathroom? Just little things so we don't fall in the hole.
Amazing. I can relate. I can relate with the parent. I can relate with the therapist situation. And then also helping therapists and educators. I can relate as a mentor with all those therapists and educators too. Like I see them coming in and dealing with the behavior, and then we've forgotten about what the real problem is. Now we're really like so far off of what we need to be dealing with. And that's amazing. There's so much to learn. And if you're listening here and then you're feeling like this is very interesting, if it resonates with you, we have a Exciting opportunity to share with you. We are partnering with Fran, and she's hosting her program. And this is one of the many programs she has. It's called Mindfulness in Action, a toolkit for calm, connection, and co-regulation. And it's going to be run this July. And it's for parents, educators, and pediatric professionals who support children through big emotions and challenging moments. And I know I'm honestly gonna take it for myself. We're gonna provide a certification of completion. I'm gonna take it for my own because I'm gonna sit here as a student and learn from her as well. And I'm telling all my therapists, and if you're one of our certificate therapists, have completed our certification program, we have a special offer for you guys that you can come in her program for 50% off as being part of our RITP community. We definitely want to honor you, and I definitely want you to have this because it's really important for you to have it and to have a tool, not only with working with the clients you work with, but if you're a parent, I need this for a home, and I'm having my husband take it, and my friends want to take it. I'm telling my friends, and we're having coffee, they're already saying, I want to take it, I want to take it. It is really exciting for us to have. But before we close off for this session, Fran, can you just break it down a little bit about what the program is going to look like and what to expect?
Yes, absolutely. So I am going to take you on a 4-week journey to reset and recenter your nervous system. You're going to learn about the most effective breath work to create that resiliency within you. It also helps with your immunity. Remember, when we're not feeling resilient, we're also going to lose that immunity. So it's going to help in so many ways. And then we're going to start to look at the different things that trigger us,
Mm.
and we're going to learn what to do with that. So I talk about something called the mindless reaction cycle, which is a wheel that a lot of us get stuck on. And I'm going to take you into the mindful-ish action cycle. And mindful-ish is my approach to life. And I want to talk about what mindful-ish is for a moment. So, mindful-ish is about remembering to focus on progress over perfection. A lot of parents and educators and service providers, we got into these roles because we at one point envisioned ourselves being very good and successful at this. If you are a parent, you've probably thought, I will never do this thing like my mom or dad did. Or you might think, I really want to do this thing that my mom or dad did. And if you are an educator or a service provider, those professions are callings. And you probably, especially when you're working with the pediatric community, you probably had this idea that you could make a difference. And then somewhere along the line, life happens, and we really lose that. And so being mindful-ish is about wanting to be present, wanting to be able to be responsive as much as possible, and remembering to also be okay if you mess up. You have the grace to mess up, because when people mess up, they usually give up. They usually say, oh, this isn't for me. But if we can be mindful-ish, if we can remember to be mindful some of the time, the results are going to be tremendous. Like that, I forget the name of the principle where 20% of the effort yields 80% of the results. This is how mindful-ish works. And then the other reason why I name my approach mindful-ish is because when I was, like I told you at the beginning of this podcast, having a lot of troubles with one of my own children, I knew the kind of mother that I needed to be for my baby, but everybody around me had an opinion. They would tell me how they would have handled this or that. They would say to me that I should do this or I should do that. And all of those things really did not resonate with me. They were things that went with very like harsh lines and punishments and reward systems. And I just knew that my little guy's nervous system wasn't it. If you would have promised him a trip to Disney World or threatened to push him into an alligator pit, it wasn't going to change his behavior. He needed a different kind of help. And I knew that. And I wanted to make sure I was mindful. I wanted to make sure I was present. And it was interesting because people would say to me, "What are you doing with him?" And I'm like, "I practice mindful-ish stuff." And I said that as a way to protect myself. But now I know it's not protection. It's exactly what he needed. And to just have faith in yourself. And ish has really become about the progress over the perfection.
Love it. And then, so for those people like who are interested in joining, so you said they have a 4-week session with you, and you're gonna do the coaching and answering questions as they
Yes.
are implementing the
Yeah, so
exact strategy.
we're gonna have content, right? The content is the theory. This is how you start to you're gonna learn about the things to do. But then you're gonna have something called own work. And homework is those things that we're doing to hopefully bring some more peace into our lives and into our children's lives, that whether that's at home or at school or in your office, in your clinic. The homework is where you start to practice these little things. And what you put into the program is what you're going to get out of the program. If you're a person who's just program watching happy and just watches the content, thinks it sounds great, but then is not willing to do the homework, nothing's going to change in your life. So I wouldn't even waste your time.
Yeah.
But if you do these little bite-sized pieces of homework. They're so small. They're a lot of it is about your awareness. A lot of it, there's going to be journaling in there. If we don't start getting our thoughts out and getting them down in paper and or on your computer where you can reflect on them, if we don't get to the point of reflection, we won't learn how to be different in context. So each week you're going to have things that you learn about, and then you're going to have things to practice. And then when we get on that coaching call, we get to clarify all those things that maybe you had questions about, things that you're like, how does this work? Or you might say, I tried X, Y, and Z. I want to share my success, or I need a little more help with this. And you, not only am I going to be there, but we're going to have a community of people who want to make this shift happen for themselves as well. So it's going to be really great.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'll be taking this course myself or program, and I'm really excited about how we're going to get the shift. And the teachers that I support, they're already asking me, when is it starting? Because they're excited to start working on it, because Fran came to some of our coaching calls for our RITP Pro, which is our school program that we have, and Fran and I lead it together, and she presented there. Most of them are asking about it, so really exciting. If any of you are interested, the link will be below, and make sure that you click on that link and learn more about it. It's called Mindfulness in Action, a toolkit for calm and connection and co-regulation. Registration is open now, and we're going to start July 14th. So it's going to be a 4-week session, and the recording will be there available for you if you're not going to join us live, but you can post your questions for sure, and then we'll be able to support you there. Thank you so much, Fran, for coming. And then next episode, we're going to talk about the next topic. What is it?
Quit taking it personally.
Exactly. Okay. See you later.